Hey guys, it's Tom from Innovative Tom. Today is my first video project and I'm going to show you how to build this workbench. Started with the legs. The project is mostly built with 2x4s and plywood. You can find the plans on my website, including all the dimensions you'll need to make these cuts. I started by gluing and lining up all the pieces first, and then I used clamps to hold them in place while I screwed them together. It might not have been necessary, but it makes it much more secure. I did this for all 4 of the legs. I made sure to screw in from the inside of the leg. That way you wouldn't see all the screw holes on the outside and it would look cleaner. Some of the pieces weren't perfect, so I set up a straight edge and cut the gap a little bit bigger so that the piece of 2x4 would fit evenly through it. My workshop, better known as the basement, isn't exactly complete yet, so I had to do some cleaning up before I was able to put together the tabletop. I found after a few different tries that it was easiest to lay the pieces flat, square up the cross pieces, and screw the legs to them. It made it much easier. As I started to lay out the tabletop, I realized that my corners weren't 45 degrees. The markings on my skill saw weren't exact. Next time, I'll definitely make sure to measure instead of just go by what it says. I decided since that no one was really going to see the corners anyways, I wouldn't go back and recut them. I would just continue framing it like they were square pieces. I did this for all of the legs and both the short and long cross pieces, and I eventually got the table standing up. Once the table was upright, it was time to put the lower leg cross members in. I quickly realized that I wasn't going to be able to just drill these in, and I was going to need a clamp to hold it in place. The 2x4s aren't perfect and they're usually pretty warped, so this made it so that it would sit flat. Everything was cut to the right size, so just lining it up, making it flat, clamping it together, and screwing the pieces. Again, I did these from the inside, that way I wouldn't see as many screw holes on the outside. It's now time for the cross pieces on the top. These will support not only the tabletop, but it'll make it wobble a little less. I originally had planned out to do 3, but I figured 2 would just be fine. I pre-drilled and half screwed in the screws into the holes, which made it a lot easier to line up and drill the pieces in. This part was a little tricky because I didn't have a clamp long enough to pull the 2x4s together, so I had to use 2 clamps to just kind of get it enough until I could screw it in. I decided I needed a little bit more support on the bottom, so I decided to put some cross pieces on the short end. Again, I was able to pretty much hold these in place while I screwed them in, and it was pretty simple. I made sure that the distance across was what it was supposed to be according to my drawings, and kind of had to move the legs a little bit. I used the pocket hole jig to make 3 separate sets of holes across the side in order to secure the tabletop without having to drill down through the tabletop or up through 3.5 inches of 2x4. For the tabletop, I went with a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and a 3/4 inch piece of MDF. I secured the piece of plywood to MDF using a few screws along the bottom, just short enough so that they wouldn't go through. I secured the whole thing to the frame using the pocket holes that I had drilled out before. Well, there you have it. Finished bench. I did come back and add a little chamfer along the whole edge. I had to borrow a router, so I couldn't film that, but it came out really nice, and it should prevent from the top splitting when I start using this thing pretty soon. A couple improvements I think I'm going to make in the future is I'm going to add a shelf here and maybe some drawers along the top to add stuff. Plenty of room to put hooks and all kinds of things along the side. So pretty versatile. It's pretty sturdy both ways. And there you have it. If you guys like this video, please comment and let me know. If you'd like me to continue to do stuff like this, I'd be happy to. Thanks, guys.